All right, Sunday quarterback time, Sean. Man, what an afternoon. This was a great college football game. Take the result away. This was fantastic. Atmosphere, 105,000 fans here at the Horseshoe. The Huskers fall short, but I think maybe they found something. Let's start with the defense because they played perhaps their best game of the year.
Yeah, they were put in some immediate adversity with field position, and the way they responded after a shank punt, a bad kick return, and the field position Ohio State gained, that should have been 7-0. And for Nebraska to stand up and get that early fourth down stop, you know, I think that was the defense we expected to see last week, and it didn't show up, and that was the biggest mystery, but it tells you how good Indiana was. I mean, they have dominated now all 8 of their opponents, winning even here on Saturday without Curtis Rourke.
No question about it. The Huskers, by the way, holding Ohio State to just 1 of 10 on third down conversions. Ty Robinson telling us after the game, this is how it's supposed to look like. And in the third quarter, it was how it's supposed to look like, at least offensively for Nebraska. They found something.
Yeah, I think by keeping this game, Andy, as a one-possession game, it was 14-3, and you were a little worried. I think the game was going to change if Ohio State just did one more thing. But by keeping it to 14-3, to then getting it to 14-6, it allowed the running game to still be a part of this offense. I think Nebraska was very close to maybe abandoning their running offense, but they were able to really find something, and that made this a game. I don't think Ohio State was expecting Nebraska to outgain them in the margin they did on the ground.
What do you think of Dylan Rhule? His approach on this Saturday, running the ball, scrambling, being more willing to take a shot here and there, and one of the runs was 38 yards, second longest run for Nebraska this season, longest in Big Ten play.
Yeah, it reminded me when Texas played Nebraska back in 2010 in Lincoln. If you remember that game,
yeah,
they had a quarterback that was not a runner, and all of a sudden he just started taking off and running the ball. Garrett Gilbert was his name, and they weren't expecting that. Ohio State was not expecting Dylan Rhule to take off and run in that manner, so then they had to account for that and play him a little bit differently at that point. So, that was a big boost to the ground game that needed a boost.
Yeah, after the game, Coach Rhule saying very clearly, this is not a moral victory. He doesn't believe in moral victories. However, he was proud of his guys, and he felt something switch in his team, a championship mindset that he's been searching for in this club. He may have seen shots of that on this Saturday.
Just to respond the way they did. I mean, I've been around a lot of ugly weeks in Nebraska. You have too.
Yep.
But there was just a terrible, nasty feeling all week in this state, everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. And for this team to be able to overcome that and play this way, because I've seen the fans mad, but this last week, there was this like, oh boy, we're going to get our butts kicked. It's going to get ugly. This is embarrassing. We're rebuilding. And for them to overcome that and really a play away from winning this game in the Horseshoe, nobody really predicted this. Nobody.
Nobody at all. And, one of the areas that people would take shots at, special teams, and that was one of the strengths on this Saturday. That was one of the reasons why Nebraska was still in it. John Hall had a huge day.
And they started out rough with the bobbled kickoff and the botched muff punt. Not muff punt.
It was a
shank punt, excuse me.
About 30 yards.
But after that, it was lights out. I mean, the kick coverage, John Hall. I mean, and how do you go? I mean, John Hall's the starting kicker.
Yep.
I mean, there's no discussion.
That kick before half was enormous.
Into
to make it
the wind.
A 54-yarder to make it a one-score game. That was enormous, was it not?
Yeah, just to put him out there and nail it. Because Ohio, everybody knows Nebraska's have had snapping issues, have holding issues because of those snaps. And, it's led to low kicks. For them to execute 3 of those in a row in this stadium, wow. I mean, that was a great, great job by, Brett Maher and the coaching staff working with John Hall and the specialists to get him to this point.
Yeah, really, really nice afternoon, a terrific side story in John Hall. All right, moving forward, this is a huge stretch because, Nebraska's 5-3. They were 5-3 at this point last year, but it does feel different this year, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think Dylan is the difference. I mean, they just didn't have that kind of quarterback
and the
play.
Defense, right?
And the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, those two things, and the running game is as good or better right now than it was last year.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the Harburg element they got with the running game last year at times. So, going into this game, I feel a lot better going into this UCLA game. I think the Iowa game and the Wisconsin games, you feel a lot better about. And, USC on the road, you just don't know.
Well, they're going to match up physically because I think they proved something on this field. If you can go toe-to-toe with the 4th-ranked team in the country, you can go toe-to-toe with UCLA, with Wisconsin, with USC.
A team that has a $20 million roster,
Absolutely.
by the way.
Yeah.
Like a higher roster than a lot of Major League Baseball teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Huskers finished the day losers 21-17. However, there is some optimism surrounding this club. They will host UCLA Saturday at 2:30 at Memorial Stadium.